Buckle up, everyone, and welcome to Carpool Rugby League, a show where two rugby league tragics talk everything rugby league on your way to and from work. I'm Shano.
And I am the Chameleon.
Welcome aboard and on with the show. I almost buggered that up, that start bit. I've had a good run lately, and I almost thought I'd stuffed it. That's okay. Welcome, everyone. That's it. Game, set, bingo, as George Moore would say on the ABC. Season done, and we're now in the finals. So, yeah, wow, what a whirlwind season. This episode, everyone, we're going to go through our semester 2 report card. We're also going to do. We're also going to look at our tips from the start of the year, what we predicted might be the 8, and I'm telling you now, I don't think I've come close. We're going to do the usual Griffo grab. We're going to look at the games ahead. But in a week that was, Griffo, what caught your eye? What was your grab?
Yeah, look, there was, well, I say it every week. It's probably need to stop saying it. But I'll just stick to the fact that there was one player who, above all players, was absolutely brilliant. He will win the Dahlia medal. And that is the halfback from the Melbourne Storm, Jerome Hughes.
Yes.
Who produced, I don't know if it was the best performance, individual performance of the year of anyone, but I'd dare say it would have gone close. He absolutely murdered the Broncos, along with a great performance from Will Warbrick, who I thought was outstanding. But Hughes, he scored 3 tries himself. He ran for 151 meters. He made 3 line breaks, 4 line break assists, 2 try assists, 6 tackle breaks. That's the stats. The stats are great, but the stats don't tell you the range of skills that he showed. His kicking game, his passing game, his running game. He's got the lot. He showed everything that he's got the other night, and he was absolutely brilliant. Jerome Hughes, who I don't care whether the people at the Dally M say is the player of the year. I mean, I expect he will be, but he has been head and shoulders the best player in the NRL in 2024 so far.
Yep, I thought his performance was outstanding and very worthy. Very worthy recipient if he gets it. So that's coming up. That's something that's coming up in the not too distant future. Looking ahead, I suppose we've got the games coming up. The top 8 is set. It's that time of year where we go through our report card for semester 2. But Griffo, we're going to do things slightly interesting, slightly different, be a bit interesting. You've crunched the numbers, and we're going to do a semester 2 ladder, and that's the way we're going to give our report card. So you're in charge of that, Griff. If you can tell us, do you want to go? We'll go.
Well, I'm going to get you to guess. I've got teams ranked 1 through to 17.
We'll go.
But we'll start at the top.
We'll start at the top. Okay. I'm thinking.
Now, this is rounds for listeners. This is the last 13 games.
Yep, last 13.
So last 13.
Okay.
So it's just slightly more than halfway, because you can't split the 27.
Okay. Considering the Storm lost 5 all year, I'm going to say Storm number 1.
Storm were indeed number 1 with 22 points coming from 10 wins, only 2 losses, a bye. They had a plus 150 differential, and I've got them well and truly as an A for semester 2. They have been the best team all year, but particularly in semester 2.
Yeah, I agree, Griffo. What really, I think, what really typifies it for me with the Storm is that and I'm guilty of this. So if you go through all the early podcasts, you go through last year's podcast, the same. I'm talking about the Melbourne Storm losing their venom, and believe it or not, listeners, rugby league is my life. I watch it, I live it, I breathe it, and yet the Melbourne Storm make me look like an absolute idiot every time I say it. 692 points for the year. That's an immense amount of venom in your attack. That's amazing. And for them to then go through the whole year, 5 losses, 19 wins, they're an A for me. They're a standout. Second place, all right. In second place, I don't think it's the Panthers. Would I be right in saying it's not the Panthers?
You would be correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to say it's the Roosters.
You are correct yet again.
Yep. Okay. And look, this is just me thinking about where teams have come from.
Yeah,
so Roosters.
Listeners, this is not staged in any way.
I have no idea.
Shano, I said to him before we came on that I've got the ladder for the last 13 rounds, and I didn't tell him anything other than that. So Roosters.
This is where it proves I do live and breathe rugby league.
Well, this is true. 9 wins, 2 losses, 2 byes, a plus 142 differential. I've got them as an A in the second half of the year. They won a lot of games by some pretty big margins. And yeah, they've done well. The second in semester 2.
Yeah,
Shane,
yeah.
agree?
Look, they're an A for me. Absolutely phenomenal. Second behind the Storm in attack, which is amazing. Their defense, we talk about the Sharks. People talk about the Sharks' defense. The Roosters' differential is not too far away. They're not actually too far away from the Storm either, but their attack is brilliant. 275 in the end. Just outstanding. Yeah, fantastic in my opinion. They've done some amazing things, played some amazing football, and I think they thoroughly deserve their spot as an A club. Yeah. All right. Next.
So number 3.
I'm going to go out on a limb here. Am I going to go out on a limb?
How many limbs you got?
Well, I don't know. We're getting into those teams that have sort of got 8 losses, 7. Obviously, Panthers.
It's not the Panthers.
It's the Panthers?
Nope.
Would it be Cowboys?
It is the Cowboys.
Cowboys. I was tossing up between Cowboys and Panthers. I went Panthers.
All right, so here we go. So the Cowboys also 22 points.
Yep.
8 wins, 2 losses, 3 byes. A differential of plus 115. Mm-hmm. I have them as a B, even though they scored the same number of points. The ratio of wins to losses is great, but it's not as good.
No.
They had the 3 byes in there, and they had a bonus really in that second last round where they played against the Melbourne Storm and won the game, but it was very much a weakened Storm side where they rested 11 players. So while the Cowboys, if we look at raw numbers, they're right up there. I think performance-wise, they're not quite at that same level. I was a little surprised when I actually saw how many points they'd scored in the second half of the year.
Yep.
They had 3 byes, so
I know that the big one for me is they went on this sort of run of really good form where they beat the Raiders, because I think they sort of they beat the Raiders after losing to the Warriors, and then they beat the Panthers, and they sort of then they lost in field goal to the Seagulls, and then they went on this run, and then they got belted by the Broncos. They got smashed like 40 something to not. Oh, that's not fair to say. Not a lot. 18. 16,
I think
18.
the Panthers, Shano, was in the Origin period.
That's
as
true.
well. So
That's true.
They've had
No, that's true.
had some luck.
Yeah, I agree. And they haven't won games by a lot. And then they belted the Raiders and the Storm against the Storm. The game I think is sort of where I give them a B, because I was struggling what to do, was last week against the Dogs. 44-6 winners, really punching home the fact they've got a home final against the Knights this week. I'm with you, Griffo. I've got them a B as well. The next team. Look, I'm going to say Panthers.
And you'd be correct.
Yep.
They scored 20 points, 8 wins, 3 losses, 2 byes, just a differential of 76, which isn't what you'd expect.
I think, to be fair, Griff, when you have Origin and lose your halfback, who's arguably one of the best players in rugby league, you could be forgiven for having a plus 76.
Yeah. Look, they haven't been playing anywhere near their best, but there are, some reasons for it. But it's a B. It's solid. They lost some games that possibly they could have won. They won some games that they definitely shouldn't have won. They come back a number of times. Cleary got them home against the Cowboys when I think they were 14 down.
That game against the Eels.
Against the Eels. So really, the 20 points is whether it's hiding performance, I'm not sure. It is what it is. They're a B at this stage, and we'll look at team number 5. Who do you think that is?
Well, I'll give Panthers a B too. I think everything they've done this second half of the year is gritty. If you had shown me highlights, if you showed me a mini of every game from round 14 onwards of Penrith's, I'd go, wow, this club knows how to win, and they're really gritty when they do it. And when they lose, they don't lose by heaps. They stay in the contest and they just grind and grind and grind. And I think that if I then heard the narrative that this team had won 3 grand finals in a row, you'd go, yeah. The culture there is they don't lose. And that for me is the Panthers. B as well. I actually want to dip my hat to their forward pack, who I think have defensively just been so immense at times. They're like the old Panthers where, you will outscore you, but the defensive efforts, and I remember that Broncos game where they held, I know it was 14-6, but they held the Broncos to 6. And it was just this, the Dolphins 26-28, where, okay, you go, well, hang on, they scored 26 points, but the Dolphins were brilliant that day. Dolphins beat most teams that day. In attack, they were outstanding. And the fact that they scored 26 was because the forward pack stopped them from doing any more. I think goal kicking was also a bit of an issue. There's probably only one game where I'd say they fell off the perch a bit, and that's the Eels game, but they won it, so what's it matter? I give them a B. The next team, Griffo. All right.
Number 5.
Team number 5. Team number 5. Team number 5. The Sharks they were undefeated for a while, so I don't think they're going to be there. Seagulls?
No.
Who is it, Griff?
I'll give you a clue. It's a team in the finals.
It's a team in the finals.
In the finals.
Right. Knights?
Not the Knights.
Doggies?
There we are.
Doggies. Wow. Okay. Good. Team number 5, Dogs.
So they scored 18 points, made up of 7 wins, 4 losses. They had 2 byes, and it was plus 115, the same as the Cowboys. I've got them at a B. I think those figures are quite solid, well over a 50% win-loss rate. I know they tailed off in the last 2 games, but they were putting consistent performances together and winning most games and earned themselves a spot in the finals. Now, just looking back at semester 1, they were ranked 7th.
Okay.
So after round 14.
Okay.
Actually, I might just go through the rankings after. Will I do that now? Or?
Of the...
Where they were...
Semester 1?
First half of the year.
Yeah, quickly go through that. That'd be interesting. Yep.
Okay, so the Storm were 1, and they're 1 in semester 2. The Sharks were 2nd. The Panthers were 3rd. The Dolphins were in 4th spot. They were in the top 4.
Far
out. Approximately the halfway.
Geez, they threw it away on the weekend.
The Raiders were 5. The Roosters were 6. The Dogs were 7. Broncos 8. Dragons 9. Warriors 10. Sea Eagles 11. Cowboys 12th.
Okay.
So
12th
in the first
I remember
half,
the Cowboys were well out.
3rd in the second half. So they stormed. We did expect they were going to come good.
They had
the 3 byes.
And we did talk about their run too.
Yeah. The Knights were 13th. They managed to make the top 8. The Eels were 14th. The Titans 15th. The Rabbitohs were 16th. And the West Tigers on 8 points. They were ranked number 17 at the approximate halfway point of the competition. So we had the Bulldogs at 5. Who do you think was in semester 2 6th?
Hang on. Didn't we just say? I've lost my train of thought here.
So we've got Storm 1, Roosters 2.
Yep.
Cowboys 3.
Yep.
There's 4. Bulldogs 5. Now we want 6.
Bulldogs 5. Number 6. Seagulls.
There they were. Okay, so they were very similar to the Bulldogs. In fact, 18 points made up of 7 wins, 4 losses, 2 byes, and a differential of plus 87.
Plus 87?
Plus 87.
Wow.
So not quite as good as the Dogs, but still...
But they were 113 at the end, so they really found their attack.
Yeah, and then I've got them. Obviously, I've got to be there for the Seagulls. They had.
I had them a B too, and I was questioning whether I was being too generous, but no, fair call.
No, I mean 7 wins, 4 losses. That's That's very skewed towards.
That's 14.
Number 7 now.
Number 7. So we've got the Dogs, Seagulls. In our round 13, the Knights weren't in the 8, were they?
No, they were 13th.
I'm going to say Raiders.
It is not the Raiders.
Ooh, okay. Not the Raiders. Dolphins dove. Dragons Oh, jeez. Eels? No, couldn't be the Eels. No, because they were good. No, because I'm starting to think now, like the Bunnies had...
Maybe you should write down who we've had.
The Bunnies had 5, because we've had everyone in the 8, almost, bar the Knights. So I'm now looking sort of outside the 8 to see if there's any of those teams that had that sort of like... The Bunnies went on a run of 5 after round 13. The Titans were up there. Oh, with the what? Are they outside? They'd be outside the 8.
Well,
Dragons?
do you want me just to tell you?
Yeah.
No, a team inside the 8, the Sharks.
Oh, Sharks. Sorry, I forgot about the Sharks.
So the Sharks,
yes, of course,
7th.
Of course.
They had 16 points, made up of 6 wins, 5 losses, and 2 byes. Now, those numbers don't read quite so well.
I have them as a C.
Is 142 plus. So they had some big wins, obviously.
I think they played junk as well.
Well, they were quite a mixture, really. They had a bad patch in the middle of the year. Yeah, I've got them as a C.
Yeah.
It's only just over a 50% win-loss ratio. But
they smashed the Tigers.
Obviously, they must have smashed a few teams because they're plus.
No, you know what it is. They beat the Tigers and they scored 50. And then didn't they get like 40-odd-0 against the Titans?
Yeah, they had a few big wins, yeah.
And then I think the Eagles was 40-20 last week, so there's another 20. But they didn't lose by a lot from memory.
No. I'm not sure what game it was that they got beat 44-0 by the Panthers, but maybe that was in the first half of the year.
42, round 12.
Okay, there we are.
Just brought it up.
Yep. All right, so we've got to 7. What about Team 8?
All right, Team 8. Now, right. Okay, now we've got rid of the Sharks. I always forget about the Sharks. It's got something to do with the team, really.
They want recognition. Oh, actually, no. I think I heard a discussion about that. They'll get recognition if they can win a finals game because I think they've actually had a good year.
Yeah, they'll. If they don't win it, the odds of them winning it the first week are very scant. But in the second week, they're going to be there or thereabouts at home too. Raiders.
Yeah, you're keen on those Raiders, but it's not them.
Jeez. Okay. Because the Dolphins dove. Knights.
Knights it is.
Yeah.
All right. So the Newcastle Knights finished with 16 points, 6 wins, 5 losses. They had 2 byes, just a +7.
Yeah.
But they're one of the form teams over the last month. So obviously most of those losses occurred some time ago. I've given them a C there, but the figures are game-wise the same as the Sharks, but differential was quite significant. But definitely with a more than 50% win-loss ratio, I've got them as a C.
Yeah, I got them as a C too. I actually think their back end of the season has been quite good. They were unlucky against the Sharks.
They were unlucky, I think, against the Panthers.
1918. Panthers 22-14. They were right in it.
They pushed in, yeah.
There's only one game I can remember sort of in that run. Because in that run, they've played the Panthers twice too, and the Storm in there as well.
Okay.
I think the only game where I think they've probably... Well, I remember looking at it going, oh, was they had a run and the Seagulls beat them comprehensively, and so did the Broncos, and I went, oh, here we go. The Knights, poor Knights fans, things look like they're going to go all right, and they're not going as well as we thought. So, I gave them a C. I thought they've done pretty well. I think for Knights fans, look, the coaching staff at the Knights, they're doing all the right things. They've been in the finals now for the last couple of years, and there's a lot of there's a few teams out not in the finals that we thought might be. So for the Knights to make it, I think it's congratulations to them, really.
Oh, absolutely.
Them and their coaching. I think the coaching staff
didn't have them any show of
job.
making the 8, earlier in the year.
No.
They finished well. Interestingly, in semester 2, all of those 8 teams are in the top 8.
Yeah.
It's just the order that's different.
Yeah.
And some of those teams, as mentioned, we've got at least 3, as I look at it, weren't in the top 8 halfway through the year. The Sea Eagles, the Cowboys, and the Knights were 11, 12, and 13 on the ladder. So they're the improvers in semester 2, or the second half of the year. For those of you who are wondering, why do we keep saying semester 1, semester 2?
Well, we're teachers.
It's because we're teachers.
Yeah, well, that's the way we roll.
Yeah. But there'll be no detention.
No
detention.
No detention. Well,
although there should be 1 or 2 players who probably should.
I'll tell you what, at the moment, there's a couple of players that the friggin' should be on the suspension list, and one is on the suspension list. Maybe that's what we should call it, the suspension list. Hey, one player's lucky not to be expelled as well.
Right. Okay, so we now go outside of the 8. Who have you got ranked at 9, Shano?
Right, I've been saying the Raiders, but I forgot the Raiders were in the 8 early on, weren't they? So
they were 5th after.
That's right. So they had a dive. Dolphins have had a dive. I'm gonna say Dragons.
You think you've mentioned it before, but it ain't them.
Okay. So how many points would the Knights get in this semester?
They got 16.
16. Okay.
What I will tell you is there's a significant drop-off after
right
to Team 9 and everything.
Okay. Because I'm starting to think, 16. I know the Bunnies got 10 or thereabouts, but I don't think that's probably them. The Titans went okay. Warriors?
Not the Warriors.
Can't be the Broncos.
It ain't the Broncos.
Let me know who it is, Griff.
It is the Gold Coast Titans.
Wow.
So in semester 2...
Never picked it.
Now, they had a really bad start to the year.
They did, yeah.
But in the second semester, the second half of the year, 12 points from 5 wins, 7 losses, and 1 bye, and a differential of minus 47.
Yeah.
So I've given them a C. That wasn't too bad. Almost, just below the 50% win-loss ratio there. I saw them last Saturday night, and I thought they put in. They sort of hung in there. Their defense was quite strong, which it's been probably their biggest problem throughout the last 6 or 7 years at least. Is stopping tries, but they were quite good the other night.
I was doing my report card and I looked at them and I gave them a C as well. And what I thought is I've actually, I don't know why, I watch most rugby league games. If I don't watch them, I watch them in. But I've seen a lot of the Titans 80-minute games. I love their tenacity. Like, I gave them a C because there's times where they will do a play or a set of 6 and you just go, they can, it's not that they can do it and don't want to. Like, I think Fafita is kidding himself 75% of the time. But for the rest of the clan that's out there, they really have a crack. And when they have a crack, it's actually genuine. Like, I think that, I gave them a C as well. I've actually, when I look at where they finish at 14th, I know their coaching staff will be disappointed with that, and probably a lot of the head staff will be too. But next season, they've got some. They've got one player coming back from injury who will make a significant difference. But yeah, I sort of look at it and go, I know why they could be disheartened, but there's a small part of it that says don't be. Like you actually you did take teams to the wire and you played some good footy, and it's just that polish of players that got injured over the season, or you may not have in your cap yet, that they're the difference. I gave them a C as well.
All right,
Next.
10.
Next. Okay, so they got, did you say 14? 12. 12. So we're looking for, I reckon the next team probably got 12 as well. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. Okay, I'm thinking then. Oh no. When was the Tigers' first win? I'll go Dragons.
It's not the Dragons.
Okay. Is it?
It is a team you've mentioned before.
Raiders?
It is the Raiders.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so the Canberra Raiders, 12 points only, made up of 5 wins. Now, bear in mind, they won their last 3 games against the Panthers, the Roosters, and then they got out of jail against the Dragons, I think it was.
Yes.
So they finished the year magnificently in their last 3 rounds.
There were some ordinary moments.
And they only won, in the second half of the year, they only won 5 games. They lost 7, and they had 1 bye, and it was minus 90, the differential.
Yeah.
I've got the Raiders as a C, again, based on the fact that they're just slightly below the 50% win-loss ratio.
I had them as a D. And then I said, nah, hang on. They've done, let me think about it. Because I'm thinking of the Raiders that have dropped out of the 8. I'm not thinking of the Raiders of what they've done over the semester. And then I looked at what they'd done in the last 3 weeks, and I'm like, the last 3 weeks they've actually played some very good
they've been great.
They deserve the C. So I changed my grade. Even against the Dogs, they were there or thereabouts. So I changed my grade and made them a C. It's a very low C. Look, they're one game outside the 8, and I think if they look back across the second,
well, I think they missed the 8 only on 4 and against.
4 and against. Sorry,
no, that's not right. Newcastle.
They're one. Yep. So if you look,
hang on, I'm looking at the 8. 30 points Newcastle.
30 points, yeah. Because the 4 and against, I saw
30 points Raiders.
They had the same points. They did.
127.
Yeah, it was the differential. So because the differential's so huge, I classed that as a game. I sort of said, look, you need to get to 32 if your points differential's that bad.
Yeah, they won 50% of their games.
Yeah. Interestingly,
at the start of the year, I wouldn't have thought they would have done that. So
interestingly, yet again, you win.
I think they've had a decent year, but not.
You win your half your games. You're right. The game for me was at Campbelltown where they lost to the Tigers, and you sort of went.
Well,
and it's funny. I was actually.
That cost them a spot in the 8.
I agree, and I remember it was on a Sunday, and I was watching and listening to it on the radio. I must have been. I don't know what I was doing. And I think it was Luke Lewis on the radio. Might have been Luke Lewis said that's going to cost them a spot in the 8. Like it was this throwaway sort of comment. And now that you sort of fast forward through, you go, yep. If you're gonna lose significantly to the people below you, and interestingly, later on at home they lost to the Knights. And I thought,
the Knights have finished the season quite well, so
that could hurt them.
That's not a disgrace.
Yeah, that could hurt them because I think it was a very close game. It was 2 or 4 points in it. So,
they finished equal with the Knights on points. So.
Yeah, but I think the game was like 14-10 or 16-12, something like that.
All right.
Hang on, look it up here. 16-12. So it was those are the games that sort of. The shifting sand moments that you sort of went, well, okay, and then they had this good run, but I got them a C too. I got them as 6.
Okay, Team 11.
Team 11. Team 11. Now we're looking for teams that have probably come up and done well. The Dolphins have won 11. Would they have won 5? Dragons?
It is the Dragons.
Yeah.
You've been wanting to get them in there for a while.
No, because I remember that like they were rubbish. So I know they went on a bit of a run.
Okay.
And were
so
close.
They had 12 points in semester 2, made up of 4 wins, 7 losses, and they had 2 byes. Now, they were going win-loss until the last few weeks.
Yeah.
Where I think they might have lost the last 3 games. So they were in position. They had their destiny under their own hands, and then they fell apart, really. So I've got them as a D in semester 2, minus 92. So they were only slightly worse differential than the Raiders. But the Raiders won an extra game. Dragons had 2 byes. So I couldn't give them a C on those results. I think they finished very disappointing. I had them pegged at, I think, the spoon this year. So overall, they've not had a bad year, but they've certainly had a bad finish to the year. They overall they won 11, lost 13. But yeah, big minus 126 for the season. Coach Flanagan, he's done a good job with them. But he would have been bitterly disappointed with what they've delivered against. Well, they got beat by Para, who below them on the ladder. The other day, they led 18-0 against the Raiders. And I tipped the Raiders. I thought, I'm going to miss out on this one. But as it turned out, the Raiders, were good enough to come and win that game. So what about you, Shano?
Yeah, I'm a D. It's funny because of course Rabbitoh Jazzy lives down at the Gong, and so I tend to sort of look at what games are at win, and when I looked at the Dragons, I soon realised that they have had a horrible run at home between Nestra Jubilee and the Gong. Like I think their last win was against the Dolphins at home. They really do not turn up when they've got a home game. Panthers belted them from memory. I know they won away to the Storm, but they were at home to the Dogs and got belted. They did have a win. I apologise. Titans, I think they won, but then Sharks belted them away, and then when they go to Nestra Jubilee against the Raiders, a must-win game. Do everything you can to lock it up. The week before at Combank, as I love it. Maroon was commentating for Triple M that day. I watched the second half of the game. I listened to the first half on radio. I was out, and he likened Ravalawa's efforts in the first half to that of Steve Maven back in, and yeah. If
he that bad?
Apparently, and I watched it. It was horrible.
I did see a little bit of that, and I did see some Ravalawa.
And it was just, you have to do everything to the absolute. And then in the end, they run in these tries that you go, where was that in the 20th minute, in the 45th minute, in the 50th? You can't do that. And I think that's I have them as a D because they have been a frustrating rugby league side to watch.
Yeah, they really gave hope to their supporters, and then just was like false hope. But Anyway, look, for those who thought they were going to win the Spoon this year,
They
they've
did.
exceeded expectations. Team 12, Shane.
Team 12. Team 12. Team 12. Well, the Broncos took an absolute dive. We're now in the sort of 10 points region, aren't we?
That is correct.
Bunnies?
It is not the South Sydney Rabbitohs.
Okay. I'm then going to say... Oh, when did the Tigers win their first match? Not Tigers, is it? For and against knocked Tigers out. Dolphins?
Not the Dolphins.
No. Warriors?
Not them either.
Okay. Not the Broncos?
Nope.
Wow.
You've named just about every
I was
other
going to
team.
say Eels?
It is the Parramatta
Eels, yeah. Okay.
Okay, so they came in at 12th in semester 2. They scored 10 points, as you accurately told us. You thought it'd be a team on 10. They had 3 wins, 8 losses, 2 buys.
3 wins and 2 buys.
For a minus 44.
Jeez.
So given that, that the ratio of losses to wins was definitely skewed to losses, that's not too bad a differential. I gave them a D. They lost a number of games where they basically ran out of petrol. One of them was against the Panthers, where they almost lost. They're almost unlosable. But there were other games as well where they led late in the game and faded away. But yeah, I've given them a D. They weren't pumped in too many games, obviously, as reflected by the differential. They played most of the second half of the year without Mitch Moses, which when you lose your best player, it is tough. But they won't be happy with the year overall, because they would have expected to make the 8, but they were never in the hunt. But anyway, in the second half of the year, they came 12th.
Yeah, I gave him a D as well. I had a little bit of hope for the Eels, and then once your best player bows out with injury, you can't do a lot, and that's...
Well, he just came back from an injury,
then bowed out now.
Got injured.
Oh, look what he did in Origin, like if he was there...
Look, he's high quality.
I actually said I've got a couple of very good friends who go for the Parramatta Eels, and I remember saying to them, mate, Mitch Moses comes back, you guys might do an epic run home. And then once he got injured, you just went, nah, fuck, poor bastards. Yeah, it's D. There was some significant... I've got to say, I don't want to seem negative or snaky here. There's some dead wood in their cap that really needs to be cut loose.
Yeah. That's interesting, Shane, that the guy that they have let go was their player of the year in RCG. Obviously, Ryle's not a big fan.
I don't...
Yeah, I'm a bit perplexed by it.
I was going to say, Griff, when I heard he was cut loose, I'm like, really? Like,
solid... And they're going to have to kick in part of his salary. So
solid forwards are very hard to come by in this competition, and it's one thing to say to him, sorry mate, you're now a bench player. He'd probably cop that. It's another thing to say we're letting you go, because you know what, he has actually got some really good skills and is a leader amongst the forward pack. If I was a club and I had a bit of money and I had a spare space, I'd be going, he's not only a cover signing, he's the guy we're going to get in, and he's effectively our forward coach.
Look, I think he could fill the void at the Tigers. left by Big Stefano's departure.
Imagine, like,
you'd think they'd have some cash. I think that would be a good
oh,
signing.
Griffo,
as opposed to Jack Bird, who they did sign.
Yeah. When I look at when he scores a try, everyone runs in and hugs him. So he's a likable character. They love him. I don't think he's Dr. Evil in a side. I think quite the opposite. I actually think he could be someone who could galvanise a young forward pack. And you know what? He may not play a game of first grade. He doesn't have to.
No, I think he'd need to. He's going to be on big money.
Well, I don't think he will be.
Yeah.
I think he'd be on very much.
Oh, no, he's...
Really?
I haven't seen that top 100 earners list, but he's definitely...
Oh, no. What I'm saying is, I think at the Eels he was on cracking money. I'm saying post-Eels, if I was a club that had a bit of cash that could throw at him, I think he's a phenomenal mentor that I wouldn't be, he's still got good years in him, don't get me wrong, but before his mentorship, he's got to be worth a bit more. That
I don't know.
You
left the way you left Penrith, where he came out and admitted he wasn't really trying like that.
Maybe that's the point.
I know
maybe
he
that's
was
the
younger
problem.
then, and
maybe that's
changed, but that wasn't good to hear.
Well,
he was an outstanding talent.
Oh, he was
who
brilliant.
Had some bad injuries. Maria Hargreaves broke his jaw.
Yeah,
and he wasn't the same player after that for a few years. Gus Gould signed him to like some massive long-term deal, and then things changed at the Panthers, and he was out the door. And they were paying his big part of his salary at the Eels for 5 years.
Yeah,
like that was I'm talking maybe $200,000-300,000. They were still paying the Eels, including when he played him in the grand final. But anyway, so the Eels got him for a little bit unders, I guess. He performed really well for them. I don't understand why Riles doesn't want him, but I do think he'd be a good fit for the Tigers.
Yeah, 100%.
All right.
Who's next? All right, we've got the Eels. 13th. We're on 10 points.
That is also true.
Yep. Okay.
I'll let you in on a little secret, Shano.
Yep.
The rest of the teams are all on 10 points.
Are they really? So it's going to be for and against.
Yep.
So, okay. Well, Tigers and Souths have been getting belted, so I'm not going to put them in it. Warriors?
It's not the Warriors.
Who we got? Broncos?
Not Broncos.
No. It's not the... it's not the Rabbitohs, is it?
It is your beloved South Sydney Rabbitohs.
Jeez.
In 13th position in the second half of the year. They scored 10 points. We already know that.
Yep.
They won 4. They lost 8. They had only the one bye in the second half. It was minus 52. So not too bad in comparison to even teams above them in this list who got more competition points. But I've got them as a D. They did have a slight resurgence sort of mid-year where not long after Demetrio departed, they started to string a few wins together, and there was even hope at one stage that they could go on a run and make the 8, which, as you would know, unfortunately, they
the
did
mathematical hope.
You are the South's man, Shano. Second half of the year, what do you think?
I gave him a D.
Yeah.
Can I say this? I suppose knowing this club a bit more intimately than most clubs, I gave their playing group a C, and I gave their administration an E.
Yeah, that's fair call.
I think that. And look, every club has injuries. I freaking hate it when fans go, "Oh, we've got injuries." Yeah, I know that. Every club has injuries. It happens. What I get frustrated with is when the writing was on the wall from round 1 and things are prolonged, and things are, they wait, and then there's 2 board meetings and 3 board meetings, and it's just, I think they're bored. I think the reason why they're in 16th place this year, and in the second half of the season where they ended up, is because it's a direct reflection and correlation of the board. We've said this on this show since day one of us starting it. We've said that the teams that are down the ladder, and you think of it back in the day, the Cronulla Sharks, when their board was a shambles, and I actually think that South Sydney have brought in Wayne Bennett for 2 reasons. Number one, because he is a good coach. Don't get me wrong. But number 2, I think he's the voice of reason they need to say, you guys are actually the problem. We know that the last time Bennett was at South, he was critical at times of the decisions that the board had made, and he basically would talk to the owners of South and say, look, this board is going the wrong way. You have to start going down this way. And by the time he left, I think he's left some clubs in pretty poor fashion. I thought he left South in a very, very good state. And I think it was actually Demetriou who wanted to be more the mates of the team than their coach and head kicker. That was the problem. I think the board knew that the problems were there and sat on their hands for a significant period of time, and therefore we reap what we sow. They got rid of Sam.
Well, that was the big.
Morris.
He called a spade a shovel.
Yeah,
Morris didn't like it.
Morris walked. Look at those 2 guys now; they're doing pretty well for themselves. I thought Hornby was thrown an absolute hospital ball, and what he's done with it has been fairly good from when he took over. I was never expecting him to make the finals, but the board need. Again, we talk about the club. We give them. I give them a D. The board deserve an E. What they've done this year has been abysmal at best, and any member, and we always say, become a member of your club. Any member that thinks that this board is doing things for the future are kidding themselves. They signed Bennett for no other reason than they have the cash to do so, because let's face it, it's the one thing that's not in your cap. So they could throw everything but the kitchen sink at him, and they did it to save their jobs. I hope every one of them has a good hard look at themselves, and if half of them get thrown out, I would not be upset. So
it was something that really bothered me about the club was the way, that I don't know where it's at the moment, but threatening legal action about the NRL. Basically saying, look, you're going to do your suspension next year, Latrell.
The club said, this is how... I almost swore. I'll stop. You go. Sorry, Griff. I was almost on the rant there.
Again, they seem to be pandering to this guy.
God,
and that's been the cause of their problem. They just pander to try and keep him happy. And he just doesn't learn. If they took the hard line with him, he'd either leave or he'd get his act together.
Griffo, the phrase I'm thinking of rhymes with clucking bell.
Okay.
I just think that they are... Okay, let's take it from the start, right? We're going to stand Latrell Mitchell down for the rest of the year. What we're going to do is we're going to say he's got an injury. Okay, all right. So then the NRL do their investigation, give him 1 week. Oh, hang on, he doesn't have an injury anymore. Make your mind up. Like What they should have done is fire him. I'm a South fan through and through.
You are.
And
I was going to say there'd be fans.
It's doing my head in that we let Blake Taft go.
Yeah, you're a big
The guy
fan.
got us to the grand final. Now I'm not saying Blake Taft is Latrell Mitchell. Don't get me wrong. But the one thing I'll say to any South fan, dollar to donuts, you tell me what has Latrell Mitchell done that Blake Taft couldn't do since we signed him? And how much money would we have in the kitty for something else outside of that? What has Latrell Mitchell done? I'll tell you what he's done. He had one phenomenal game against the Roosters in the semi-final on Sin Bin Sunday. He was brilliant that day, and I will never take that away from him. The other good game he had was against Manly, where he actually done his hamstring. We were in the grand final against the Panthers. Outside of that, it's been this, I'll throw it wide for 20 minutes. I just don't see how anyone can talk like the guy. The guy goes into centre for the Blues. He's brilliant. Don't get me wrong. He's a great player. But has the Bunnies got value for money? They have not. So when this kind of stuff happens, and now they're trying to pander to him, I'd say, mate, you know what? We're going to pay you on a game basis now. And this is where the NRL, they wanted to bring it in. Clubs wanted to bring it in. The NRL said no. Where for certain players like this, you pay them per game. And it's very hard for the cap. I get that.
Yeah.
But if you're willing to ride your cap off and say, right, Latrell's worth $1 million, but we're only paying him this amount because if he's suspended or he doesn't play because he's, because he's brought the game into disrepute, we're not paying him. You know what? I think every player and this is the Josh Adokar situation at the Dogs. If you brought the game into disrepute, you shouldn't be paid.
Well, I mean, we're moving a bit away.
Oh, no, we're going off on a massive tangent, but that's true.
I was just going to say, I think there's some merit that maybe the salary cap be slightly reduced and that there be another pool of, 1.5 to 2 million that, okay, this is for a win, this is for a loss, but you can't go beyond, there's a certain cap there as well. I think that wouldn't be a bad thing, but I don't think there's too many professional sports that operate now with sort of, pay for a win, pay for a loss type thing. But I don't think it'd be a bad thing. But anyway, we are now up to Team 14.
Team 14. So the Eels and the Bunnies are done. Tigers probably would not be there. Thinking of their for and against. Warriors?
Not them.
Broncos?
Not them either.
Must be Tigers.
Not them either.
No. Jeez, okay.
There's one.
Dolphins?
The water. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Dolphins, who were in 4th place after 14 rounds, they had a bad last 13. They scored 10 points, 4 wins, 8 losses, and 1 draw, and a minus 65 differential. So, I've got them at a D. It happened to them last year where they were up in the 8 for a fair bit early in the season, but this year they were up in the 4. But they just couldn't sustain. They were close. They were, had they, if, blah, blah, blah. But if they beat the Knights the other day, they were in the 8. So, they were thereabouts, but they got soundly beaten in that game. But still, overall, I would say a decent year. But yeah, the back end of the year wasn't so good for them. D for the Dolphins. Shano.
Yeah, D for Dolphin. I agree with you. I thought they were a D. They interestingly, there were times where I thought, with the hammer doing things, they really have about 3 strings or 4 strings to their bow, and I think
I don't think they got a good number
yeah,
of strings.
I think when I think early on, Bennett created game plans that allowed them to surprise teams, and by the end, that they couldn't, that teams had figured them out, and even a guy like Wayne Bennett couldn't manipulate the team or get them to work to a way that would surprise other teams. I got a D as well.
Yeah, I mean they had their big day at Suncorp the weekend before last, where they absolutely pumped the Broncos.
Yeah.
The next team, just before we leave the Dolphins, Tom Flegler. Massive loss for them early in the year. I think he played only 4 games. I heard that within the last week or two, he actually underwent surgery. It's a nerve problem, apparently similar to Simon Dwyer, who was a boom forward for the Tigers.
Yes.
Now sits in the coach's box every week with the coaching staff. It finished his career. Legler, it's a really sad story because he is such a good player. And hopefully, with technology improved from, when probably 15 odd years ago that Simon Dwyer had his career finished. Hopefully things go well. If they do, he's still going to be out for most of next year. So that's a big blow for obviously the young man himself, who was a great player, but for the the Dolphins, who are going to miss him for most of next year, and there's a question mark on his career. Hopefully things go okay. 15 is where we're now heading, Shano.
15. All right. We've got many to go. We've got the Dolphins. Broncos.
It is not them.
Tigers.
Not them.
Warriors.
That is the team. The New Zealand Warriors. Disappointing. 10 points. 3 wins. 8 losses. 2 byes. -89. A D. D for disappointing. Great expectations. They were in the top 4 last year, and they've sold out nearly every week, if not every week, their home games. The people of New Zealand got right behind them, but the team, for a variety of reasons, just could not match the hype that was around them. So next year, it's going to be interesting to see how they go. But for this year, D, Shane.
Yep, D for me. I thought they fell off a cliff.
Yeah, they did.
You just saw them dive week after week. Sean Johnson probably not playing to the form that they needed. RTS zigged when you should have zagged most weeks. Yep. D.
All right, 16th.
16th. So it's between the Broncos and the Tigers, isn't it?
It is.
I say Tigers.
Have another go.
Broncos.
You're right. 6th time around. So the Brisbane Broncos, how the mighty have fallen. Well, they weren't that mighty, actually. No. It was some time ago they were mighty. 10 points, 3 wins, 8 losses, 2 byes, minus 117, and a
Jeez.
D for dreadful.
That was horrible.
Well, it
You
is
know
when
what?
when you look at the roster.
I gave him an E.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I gave him an E. I just thought that, you know what? They're a better team than this, and they were awful. They were awful. Like when, yeah. That's all I've got.
Yeah, I want to just point out something, Shano. You get a lot of things right, and one of the things you got right, I before tonight's podcast, I went back to our season preview where we gave our top 8. I think we gave positions for all, but I was only really concerned about the top 8. And you spoke very prophetically about the Broncos. Now, you did still have them in your top 8, but you talked about the problems that you foresaw, including injuries to Reynolds and so on. I won't go on too much, but basically what you said happened, and their season was a nightmare. I had them in a D, but anyway. But
well, you know what?
For the interested listeners, if you want to go back to I think it was the very first podcast for this year, and listen to Shane's summation of the Broncos, and that was basically how their season panned out.
You know what it is, Griffo? I felt, in a way, I feel for their fans and the play. They're rudderless. They're a bit of a rudderless ship. If Kevy's head is not on the chopping block,
it should.
Oh, mate, this, like the guys, the guy should walk on water. Like he's got to be held accountable for where they are this year, and that's it. When you got a guy in the halves, and can I say about Adam Reynolds? Week before, he went off, and who? Just trying to think. That he went off, and he was mouthing off. Him and someone else was having a.
Yeah, that was the Dolphins game.
Good old chat to each other. It was the Dolphins
game. At that stage,
game.
the Dolphins were pumping them.
Yeah, it was the Dolphins game. I
can't remember who it was, but it was the Dolphins.
It was the Dolphins game. Anyway,
might have been Felice Kafusi.
It was. Anyway, he was just, and I'm thinking, mate, that's not him. I've watched that guy play since he was 15 years old. Adam Reynolds does not go on like that.
No, frustration.
I think he's just a guy who's sick and tired, and you could see it. So, yeah, I just knew that because I saw it at South. There were seasons where he'd play 50%, and when you're playing 50% and you're also a massive part of what happens on the field and off the field, well then that struggles. I had him as an E because I just thought where they were and where they're at.
Yeah, look, I can see that, but I think with 3 wins, I've just got them scraping a D. There's Team 17. I'm only getting one shot at this.
Tigers.
You got it right. 10 points, and interestingly, the last 6 teams all had 10 points. But this was 4 wins for the Tigers, 8 losses, 1 bye, a differential of 139. We did see a little bit of a resurgence from the Tigers at the end of the season. Well, actually, before the last game, they won 2 in a row. Earlier in the semester, they won 2 in a row. We've spent a huge number of hours talking about this team, this club. I'm not going to bang on for too long, other than to say, I think you could say they deserved the wooden spoon because in Spoon Bowl, sellout at Campbelltown.
They couldn't get it together.
It was a dreadful start from both teams, but they got the Eels got into the 60s. Now this was the team they were fighting for the spoon. Got into the 60s against them. So by any stretch, that was a dreadful performance to finish off the season. There was a lot of hype around the game, and rightly so. I mean, it's good that you can sell out a ground for the two worst teams in the competition, although it proved to be that the Parramatta Eels actually jumped the Rabbitohs.
Sydney, yes.
So the Eels went into 15th overall with a better for and against than the Rabbitohs. So they would have been happy that they climbed the ladder slightly, but the Rabbitohs, they had a bad year. But Tigers were worse on the scoreboard. What did you give the Tigers, Shane, for the second?
I actually, to be honest, I gave them a D. I thought their second semester was actually...
Look, they won 4, lost 8.
It was fair, that 50-50.
It's not the worst.
I've never seen a team in recent memory have a total disregard for defence like the Tigers. When a team digs into their line and bends their line, they just don't move. And that's when you have 750 points against you. Like the team above you, South, and we can talk about South, they have 682. Like they're not in the 700s. The Eels are in the 700s, and the Eels, their attack covered it. When you have 750 points scored against you over the year, it's just insane. Like it's just something where you don't care about your defense. Like it's just ridiculous on how many points per game you give away.
I'm just going to try and work that out, Shane. I'm just looking for the calculator because my brain can't do that sort of maths.
It was about 35 points a game.
Well, let's see if you're right. So 750 divided by 24 equals 31. To the closest number.
Is that? But then 3 buys. Played 34. That's 24. So 31. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, 30. That's over 30 points a game. That's ridiculous that you can be an NRL team. When I was preparing for this podcast, I've got my notes in front of me here. I said, I've given them a D, blah, blah, blah. I will say this, though. If the NRL had a relegation system, there are significant parts of this year where I have seen that the West Tigers are not at NRL standard.
Well, they haven't been for a few years, to be fair.
And you know what? It's
tough to win the spoon 3 years in a row.
Yeah, and you know what? There's teams that have done it, and I get it. But this year especially, they are nearly 100 points different from the team above them in talking about differential. That's light years. Like, you talk about the silver lining and what they've done. Yeah. But anyway,
that is a lot.
That's what it is.
That's a lot. But anyway,
well,
Tigers,
Griffo,
they've actually got good players.
They do. They've got the nucleus.
There's hope for them, but
they've got the nucleus.
It's the same every year. We say, they've got some good players. They'll go better next year. I actually do believe they will go better next year, but the proof's in the pudding.
The biggest.
Someone's got to go down for those guys to go up, and I don't know who it is.
4 rounds out from the end. The problem with the Tigers it wasn't whether the Tigers could lift. It's whether there was a team that was worse that would fall. That was the problem. Well, that was our semester grades.
Yeah. All right. Now, the ladder for 2024, just the top 8.
Yep.
These were the top.
Well, here's the top 8 for 2024.
Yeah.
Storm number 1 on 44 points. The Panthers are number 2 on 40 points. Roosters are third on 38 points. Differential gets them over the line there. Sharks fourth on 38. Cowboys fifth, 36 points. Their differential doesn't matter because the Bulldogs got 34 points in sixth. The Seagulls, well, they made their extra point work for them, most definitely on 33, and the Knights are on 30. Played 24, won 12. Yet again, you win half your games, you get into the 8th. They're the only team with a minus differential. How were our predictions different?
Yeah, okay. Now, historically, I've got to say that I have not been a genius in terms of picking the top 8, particularly in the correct order. In the old tipping comp we used to have at school, we had a prize for the person that could get that most accurately. I don't know if I ever won that prize in lots of years of trying. But anyway, we had some success, Shane, and we had some failure.
Fair call.
So the top-ranked team was the Melbourne Storm. Do you remember who you had?
I think I had
we
the
both
Roosters.
Had the same team. We both had the Roosters.
Yep.
At the number 1 ranking. Now they came in at 3, so we weren't too far off with that. That's a pass mark, certainly. And maybe even a little better than a pass, slightly. Okay, so the Panthers came in at number 2. Now, Shano, you tipped them to come in at 2nd. So that is a massive tick for Shano. I had the Panthers coming in 3rd.
Oh, that's very close.
That's good. Like, that's quite good to be within one spot. Where I had a big failure, I had the Brisbane Broncos coming in at position number 2. And history shows that the Brisbane Broncos actually came in at number 12. I just left the 1 off the front section there.
That's right. That's fine.
That's okay. Write that one off. All right. Team number 3 was the Sydney Roosters. We mentioned them already. But Shano, do you remember who you had at 3?
I'm going to say Storm. No.
You did not have the Storm there. You had a team that was outside the 8.
Oh, really? Warriors?
No.
I didn't have. Probably South.
You did. You had the Rabbitohs at
I know I had the South in my top 4.
Yeah. And so did I. I had them at 4th. So big fail to both of us on the Rabbitohs.
I'm going to say big fail to the Rabbitohs. We were right. No.
Yes. Okay. So as mentioned, I had the Panthers at 3rd, and they came in at 2nd. So that's I'm going to take as that being pretty good. Now, team number 4 was the Sharks. Shane, you did have the Sharks in your top 8.
I wouldn't have had them 4th.
No. You had them at 7th.
Yeah.
Which is better than me. I had them in the 8 as well. I had them at 8. And a lot of that was based on the fact that I thought they had once again, the happy draw against the...
Yeah, that's true.
Lower lights. But I've got to say, I was overall impressed by the Sharks this season.
They've done a great job.
I think they have. And I think they showed last week against Manly, even though no turbo, that they're a much better team heading into these finals than the teams over the last few years. They're just making up the numbers and out in straight sets. I don't think that's going to happen this year. I think the Sharks are better than that now. The team you had at number 4, Shane, was not in the 8.
No, I would have had. Was that the Warriors?
It was the Warriors, and you
Yeah,
talked about the
I was
luck.
so disappointed with them.
Yeah, I listened, as I said, and you had massive raps on the Warriors.
Oh, you think about what their season was gonna hold, and
yeah, I will say that I'm accepting a tick, not because my number 4 team was the Rabbitohs. That's a massive fail there. But I didn't have the Warriors in my 8.
Yeah, it's fair call.
Yeah, I just I won't go into why, but I just thought there were teams that looked better.
Yeah.
And I did think they overachieved last year. Big difference for them was Johnson was the best player in the comp last year, even though he didn't get the Valley. And this year he wasn't at his best. Although he did finish the season and his career in a wonderful way last week.
Yeah, that was good.
Team number 5, the North Queensland Cowboys. Now, Shano, the bad news is you did not have the Cowboys in your 8.
No, I wouldn't. No, I didn't.
In position 5, you had a team that we've talked about and not making the 8.
I probably had the Dolphins, did I? Oh, no, Broncos.
That was the Broncos. Yeah. So you had the Broncos at 5. So no ticks there for Shano.
You know what the funny thing is? I remember doing this, right? And I remember throwing the Broncos in my 8. And I was talking to Mika about it, who's studying tonight. And I said, right, I'm not going to put the Broncos in. And she goes, oh, okay. And I thought to myself, I'm an idiot. I should just throw them in somewhere, because if you don't, they'll probably make it. And I'm like, I never had much.
No, I'm not even contemplate not having the Broncos there.
Yeah, and that's the same. Everyone would have the Broncos in there, so you might as well throw them in.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I had the Cowboys at 6, so I was.
You were close.
Yeah, I don't know why I had them there, but yeah, look, we'll talk about them more when we get to the games, but so I had the Storm at 5. Obviously, they were much better than that, but and that's a pass. I had them in the 8. Team 6 was the Bulldogs. Neither of us had the Bulldogs in our 8. I think you did say some good things about them.
Really? So I remember toying with putting them in.
Well, you had them on the edge of the 8. Yeah. I don't think I had them there from memory, but
I think I couldn't fit them in. At the expense of South. You're kidding yourself.
Yeah. But this is the start of the season.
Yeah.
I don't think all that many people would have had the Dogs in the 8. Team 7. You had the Storm at 6, by the way.
Because
as I said, I had the Cowboys
losing their venom.
The Manly Warringah Sea Eagles. Now, Shano, again, unfortunately, you didn't have them in there.
No, because I hate Seabold.
Yeah,
and it's very funny.
Seabold thing, yeah.
You know what? It's very funny that there's massive rumors around him losing his job, and they still made the 8.
Yeah, look, he's. I'm going to give him credit for getting him there. I had him at 7, so I've.
You did right. You picked one. Tick.
I picked one. Yeah, picked one in the right spot. I think that's the only one. So when we're doing the footy tips, that would have scored me 3 points.
It would have.
It would have. We had 2 points if you were one either side, and then 1 point if they made the 8. But further away than that. So I was never much good at it. But I got this one right. Seagulls. I thought before the season, Brooks was going to have a good year. I banked on the fact that Turbo would play most games. Well, he's I don't know if he's played half, but but they've been good, very good in some games, and then they've also had some shockers. 8th team, the Newcastle Knights. They were in the top 8 back last year. I didn't think they'd repeat it this year. I think the loss of Dom Young, I thought, was going to hurt them because he was such a prolific point scorer for them. It didn't look like they were going to make the 8 for a long time there, but credit to them, they got in that last spot and deserved their position there. They had to fight for it over the last month. I admire what they did because I've been critical of them earlier in the year. I thought, I thought they were just ordinary, but they turned it around. As far as Team 8 goes, can you remember? Again, this is another team that did not make the 8, Shane.
I reckon I would have had in the 8 that didn't make it. I would have had Dolphins.
No, you did not.
No, I didn't. Oh, jeez.
Something else that lives in a similar
Eels.
part of...
Maybe Eels?
Yes.
Yeah.
You had the Eels there.
Yeah.
Good roster, good coach at the start of the year. Brad Arthur generally was getting them to the 8, but it's unfortunately for Brad, it sort of fell away in the last couple of years. I had the Sharks in the 8, as I said, not because I thought they were going to have a good year, but I thought they would win enough games as they've done over the last few years with their soft
roster. Yeah,
I'd like to see them get a hard draw next year.
Well, they'll probably get one next year.
Well, I don't know if they will, Shane, because I think it all comes back to TV ratings, and apparently they don't rate that well.
No.
But, maybe they win the comp.
And they don't sell out bloody games. Like, it's not as if...
they do at Shark Park. They only fit 1,000, so... But they've got one of the lowest supporter bases in terms of numbers, as have Penrith. For whatever reason, and these are two clubs that came in the same year. I will say that the Panthers have drastically improved their supporter base over the last, certainly, the last 5 years or so. The community's got behind the team. But they're not. You wouldn't say that they're one of the heavily backed teams.
Yeah.
There's all these long-standing Sydney teams with huge followings that have sort of been lying dormant for some time, like the Bulldogs, and we're seeing they're getting 50,000 or maybe not 50, but they've been getting upwards of 35,000 just to regulation season games. So that's fantastic. But that's it. That's how we fared, which I think leads us to what's happening on the weekend.
Well, what's happening on the weekend? Let's have a look. What's happening on the weekend? Well, on the weekend, we'll go through the female, the WNRL first. So just excuse me, my computer's just chucked a. You know what this computer's like, people. It chucks a wobbly at the best of times. It's resembling. It's actually resembling less of a computer and more of a cafe press. It just gets hot and does its thing. So whilst it can do this podcast, it also makes an awesome cheese toasty. Right. WNRL, like I know, it's 7:45 on Thursday. We have the West Tigers in 10th playing the Dragons at 9th. Dragons, massive disappointment on what's happening there. Like, you would not have thought that that's where they're at. There's some key changes. I don't know whether that's going to play a significant role in the game, other than to say that really we are watching right now 9th versus 10th. And when we watch and look, whilst the West Tigers are the West Tigers, the Dragons just have not produced anything of any worth at the moment. They're really struggling. I've got the Dragons winning this. It's just going to be who's the team that's better. Any team with Tegan Berry in it, well, you have to sort of start backing them. I will say this, that I think the Dragons, we know they've cleaned the decks. We know that Soward's gone. They are looking to next year already. And Racine McGregor, she's also part of this team. But really, they are starting to look at what next year might bring. Griffo, I've got the Dragons in this one.
Yeah, Dragons here. I know they sort of had, I think, a big lead last week and lost. I saw snippets when it was live, and they went down. Very disappointing for them. But Tigers, they haven't had a win all year. I don't think they're going to win this one.
Yeah, 100%. All right, next up, Broncos play the Sharks. This is a massive game. This is huge when you think about the ladder. Round 8, Saturday at 12 o'clock, my apologies. Basically, they are 1-17. Sharks have been playing some fantastic football. They have really allowed their powerhouse and key players to do the things they need to do. Like people like Penatani, Tonagano, Johnson, you've got Anderson. They are doing some amazing things. Can I just say, though, the Broncos did not feature in any of my tips for the top 4 this year. I thought they were an aging roster. I thought they were in trouble. The Broncos have done some really, really cool things this year. They're going to take it down to the wire. It's at the Gold Coast. They're the favourites. I'm actually tipping the Sharks. I'm actually tipping the Sharks to win this one.
Did you say it was at the Gold Coast?
Yeah, it's Seabus Super Stadium.
All right, okay. I haven't really seen much of the women's game over the last probably 3 or 4 weeks. I did watch the mini of the Sharks Roosters last week, and the Sharks got pumped by the Roosters. They lost their first game. Broncos continue to go from strength to strength. I want the Sharks to win. I tend to think the Broncos will probably maintain their solid form, and I'm going to tip the Broncos this week, even though I want them to lose.
we look. You know what, Griffo? Can I say something? When pretty much it was at the point where the Broncos couldn't make the 8. You're the person I thought of. You're the one person I thought of where it was like, yep, they can't make it. We know how much you love the Broncos. That's it. Yeah. I've got to be honest, I was pretty happy too. This is an interesting game ahead this week.
Replay of the last grand finals.
It's at Seabus Super Stadium. This is the game after at 1:45. We see the Titans in 7th playing the Knights in 4th. Some key. Can I just the outs for the Titans? Brown, Gray, Williams, Guthrie. Knights are pretty much 1-17. I actually think that this game is pivotal for both these sides, and I'll tell you why. Because if the Titans win, not that I'm saying they can leapfrog or do anything special, but what I'm saying is that it probably gives them a bit of confidence as to why they were in the situation they were in. The Knights lose this, they are in all sorts. The Knights cannot afford to lose this. They have to win it. This is why I have the Knights winning this game. And although it's at the Gold Coast, I think they're going to win it. So I've got the Knights winning this one. I just think that they've got the class, they've got the players. They have to win. If they want to be a part of this final series, they have to cement their spot in this side.
Yeah, I'm going to back the Knights. The Gold Coast I think there may be a mathematical chance of making the top four, but I think that's only what it is. I did have a look at the ladder.
I got them
today.
Buckleys to none.
Um,
But you heard my top
I
eight.
don't even know if mathematically they can make it. The Knights round up the top four on 8 points. In saying that, they're only 2 points ahead of the Titans, but there's 2 other teams on 8 points as well.
It's the computations of other games that are the problem.
Yeah. Well, realistically, I guess if they beat the Knights this week, they join them on 8, and it's a matter of whether the Eels or the Cowboys get up. I don't know if they're playing each other.
Well, we got some good games coming up, Griffo.
Okay. All right. I'm going to stick with the Knights. I just think too much class.
Got some good games coming up, and this is what I'm saying. The Cowboys will take on the Roosters at Gosford Stadium, 12 o'clock on Sunday. I suppose a key out for the Dragons, the Roosters, Taranaki is out.
Wow,
that is a big out. I just think though, when I look at what the Roosters have done this year, they're in second spot. They've played some fantastic football. Can I just give a massive shout out to their forward pack? Their forward pack has just run over opposition teams. They find a gap. They know what they have to do. I reckon the Roosters, and as a South fan, it makes me, I don't want to say this, I reckon the Roosters, they are brilliant at the play of the ball. They just have this, they're almost like they just go in, hit the deck, play the ball, and it just gives so much space to the players outside of them, and it just means that their backline can do what they need to do. The Cowboys will have to play out of their skin this week to win. The Cowboys are in 6th. I again, they're part of my Buckleys to none chance, but the Roosters have a red hot crack at finals football. I think they're going to cement themselves this week. I've got the Roosters winning this one and probably winning it pretty well.
Yeah, I think they win big. They smashed the Sharks last week. They're a big, powerful team. They're missing players, but all teams are missing players. Aiken is a big loss. But I think they're going to be they've got enough there to beat the Cowboys. Which, if they do that, and if the Titans do beat the Knights, then that brings the Titans right back into it. Which leads us to the next game.
Titans beat the Knights. Well, then the Eels have so much to play for at GIO Stadium against the Raiders. 5th versus 8th. Look, you guys know what I think of the Eels this year. I think they've played out of their skin. I could see this developing last year. I actually think that they're a team on the up. It's going to be what happens around them. If any team around them blinks, well, the Eels will be there. Look, both teams 1-17 pretty much as they always have been. They're both these yo-yo teams that really struggle to find that week by week consistency. And you know, I know we talk about week to week in the NRL. Back in the day, I suppose in the 90s when you're watching it, I remember before the 90s, in the 80s, Jack Gibson used to talk about every 20 minutes. Like, we talk about yo-yoing every week. He talk about the yo-yo every 20 minutes. And that's a bit like what happens in this competition, where the team that wins has this consistent view of the game and they don't yo-yo that way. For me, that's the Raiders. The Raiders who yo-yo in and out of games against a side like the Eels, who absolutely can score points and can do it well. I've got the Eels winning this one, and I think they're actually that they could be on the verge, if someone falls asleep, of actually making the finals. And where they were from last year, that's a massive effort. It's at GIO Stadium. It's in Canberra. I understand that. I've got the Eels in an upset.
Well, on the ladder, it wouldn't be an upset, Shane.
No. But I think they're like correct. I could be wrong here. I looked at the last line of betting, and the Raiders were slightly ahead. They may even be back to even. I'm not too sure. Hang on.
Look, I'm going to tip the Raiders at home.
Yeah.
They're
really even now. My apologies.
As I said, I haven't seen a lot of the women's game. I've tried. When I have viewed, it's been the top sides that I've wanted to watch. I think the Eels, you could say that they're having their best regular season of any year. They did make the grand final one year, but it was on the back of one win in the regular season.
Yeah.
So they got a little bit lucky. But, they made the grand final. I think they had to beat the Roosters in the semi, which was a miracle, but they did it. And they're almost... Coach George Arliss has done exceptionally well with a team that I would have thought would have been fighting for the spoon. But, if they can win this one, they're in...
They're having a crack. They're having a red-hot crack.
Legitimately make the finals. And I think that's it for the women.
Well, that is it. And now we look forward to the... we've done the women's. Now we look forward to the men's. The men's final series. And on Friday, 13th. Friday the 13th, on the 13th this month. Would you believe it? At Bluebet Stadium at Penrith, we have the Penrith Panthers taking on the Roosters. Second plays third. And geez, haven't we seen some cracking games between these two? At Penrith Stadium. I go back to 2003 in a game that the Roosters won, but really Roosters won on points, but the Panthers really came through, and they've done some magnificent things since then. We've got let's just go through it. Nathan Cleary. He is named at halfback for the Panthers. That's a massive in for them. When you look at the Roosters, you have Daniel Tupou. He's in on the wing. Dominic Young. He's in on the other wing. Jake Elliott, Lindsay Collins, and Nate Butcher also named. So you've got probably, outside of the known injuries they have, the best team that they could field. The Penrith Panthers with Nathan Cleary named at halfback and captain. You would assume that, all things considered, this is a finals game that he would play. They'd be looking for the week off. I'm not going to talk about the Panthers because you are the Panthers guru, Griffo. I've got them winning. Can you tell us why you've got them winning?
Well, it's very kind of you, Shane, but I wouldn't say I'm the guru.
Oh, you are?
No, I wouldn't say that. But I appreciate the support. Look, I'll come out and say I'm going to tip Penrith. That's not a surprise. But I do really think this is going to be a difficult assignment for them. If they continue to play as they have for most of the year, particularly in the last, 5 to 6 weeks, where they've been under pressure from teams that you would expect them to beat reasonably easily. In some cases, they've won the game, like the last game against the Gold Coast. In other cases, like the game against the Raiders, they were in the grind, they dominated everything, but the Raiders got an intercept try and won. They have to be better than that. The Roosters, yes, they are missing some players, most notably their halfback in Sam Walker, and they've built their attack around Walker. So things are not going to go maybe quite as smoothly as they were going when they were racking up big scores. But if you look at the back line, Tedesco, Tupu, Swatali'i, Manu, Young, all of those guys offer huge amounts in attack. And guys like Manu can just rip a side apart. Dominic Young is a speedster. He's tall. Tupu, we know he's a try scorer. I think he's the Roosters' all-time top try scorer. They've got aerial superiority. They're all tall, from 2 through to 5. They're very tall men. Whereas all of the Panthers' outside men, they're not tall. So I think one of the avenues that the Roosters will pursue is that aerial supremacy that they have, and that concerns me. Really, that's about field position, though. If you're going to score tries from bombs, you've got to have field position. And Penrith's game is built around making sure the opposition doesn't have that. I worry about those guys in the back line as a Penrith supporter. Keary has had a good year. Sandon Smith's a good player. Luai and Cleary, though, I think gives Penrith the advantage in 6 and 7. I'm assuming that Nathan Cleary is okay. If he goes down in the game, then Penrith are in all sorts of trouble. Forward pack, Spencer Leniu will play his first game against the Panthers. He's won 3 grand finals with the Panthers. Leniu, Collins up front, that's quality. Connor Watson, we know, is a state of origin player now. So while Brandon Smith's not there, Watson offers plenty in the number 9 jersey. Different role, though, for him, because he is the hooker. They do have a backup hooker in the Penrith junior, Zach Docker-Clay, who will see game time. It might just be that he takes over the 9 position, and Connor Watson goes to his role as a 13. The 2 second rowers, Will Crichton, he's probably been the best second rower in the competition this year. Tupanua is, over a number of years, proved himself to be a very dangerous running forward. Nat Butcher is solid. He's a very good defender. He's a solid player. Then you can bring on the likes of Nafahu White, Siwa Wong, Terrell May. All of those guys offer a lot with ball in hand. The Roosters have lots of points in them, even without, and the other guy that's out obviously is Victor Radley, but I don't think they lose all that much with Tupanua filling that spot, because Victor Radley is most effective, I think, when he plays lock. He's played this year at second rower, so he hasn't had as much impact on the game. Still, obviously a very good player, but I don't think they lose that much there. As far as the Panthers go, you mentioned they're at full strength. That is correct. On paper, I think a number of these guys have been affected by injury, most notably Dylan Edwards, who has been down on form with uncharacteristic mistakes. He injured his knee playing in that last Origin game, had time off, he's come back, he's done some good things, don't get me wrong. He set up a try last week and he did well to score a try, but some mistakes in his game that are uncharacteristic. Taruva was out of the side for a few weeks. Good ball runner, good finisher. Sometimes maybe positionally in defence, not 100%. Isaac Tungo is a quality player who, to be fair, hasn't had the best year. He's missing several tackles that he should make. and yeah, he's got either Manu or Swaliti that'll be up against. He has to play well. Alamotti's a good player. He's done some good things since he come back from a broken arm. Brian Toto, I believe, is the world's best winger. And Penrith will need him to be at his best with that yardage game. Luai and Cleary, if Penrith are to win this game, they will have to orchestrate that. Forwards are strong. Leota, Fisher-Harris, they together form arguably the best combination front row in the NRL. Mitch Kenny, I like at hooker. He's developed his game in attack. He's always been a solid defender. Liam Martin, again, is another guy who, state of origin, he's just a dog who you want in your team every day. I don't think he's 100% fit. Sorensen came back last week from injury. Isaiah Yo's been in great form. He is amongst the elite players in the NRL and a very, very good captain. A guy that has had a great year off the bench, Lindsay Smith. I think one day we might see him playing for the Blues up front. Likewise, Liam Henry's got that ability. Very, very good players. And they will have to fill the gap next year left by the Fish. Luke Garner, I like him on the bench. He's a guy who runs good holes, scores a number of tries, combines very well with Luai. Two strong teams. Penrith are heavily favoured in this game. And as I said, I think it's not like that. I think it's going to be close. I think Penrith can get there. But it really depends on how well Nathan Cleary's shoulder holds up, Shano.
Yeah, when I look at week 1 of the finals, the last time I can remember Penrith getting beaten was when South Sydney beat them. In that year, I think, if memory serves me correct, South had the best defensive record of anyone in the competition. And South won that game on their defence. Penrith could not break them. I don't think that's going to happen this year against the Roosters. And Penrith, and what happened subsequently is Penrith won the grand final. But I think that since then, Penrith have really, I think if Penrith's attack, your attack might be great against every other club, it's got to be great against Penrith. Penrith has the best defensive record of anyone in the league by a country mile. But you're talking 50 points above the Storm and the Roosters. Regardless of your attack, you have to break Penrith first. The way to beat Penrith, the best form of attack against Penrith is your defence. And I just don't think the Roosters have got it. I just think the Roosters struggle in those key parts, especially when the forward pack starts rolling on, and in the 3-quarter line where Penrith get on top of you. And look, Griffer, everything you said was, I can't add any more, and I wouldn't attempt to. But that's it for me. I just think that when if you've got a better defensive record than Penrith, you can start to talk about beating them. When you don't, you then have to create an attacking weapon that gets past them, but then create a defensive weapon that finishes them. The best form of attack against Penrith is defence, and I don't think the Roosters have it. That's why I've got the Panthers in this one. So that's the first game of week. What a cracker on Friday. Jeez. Saturday, 4:05. So somewhat dry weather football at Amy Park in Melbourne. We will see the Melbourne Storm take on the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks in what should be a belter of a game as well. Look, I suppose Failongo key out, of course, because of some massive ins, Pappenhausen, Brayley, Welsh as well. Hamunueli in for the Sharks. Kafusi is in for the Sharks as well, albeit on an extended bench. I think I saw him. Hamunueli's on the extended bench. My apologies.
Yeah, Kafusi's straight into the starting
Kafusi's in the start lining up. Yep.
State of origin.
100%. Look, this is going to be a massive game, and this is a game where I think if I was the Sharks, I'd be wanting to explode out of the blocks, see what happens, and see what we could do with the Storm. The Storm are just a juggernaut of offensive power. You can try and score against them. They have an attacking weapon trying to score every set of the match. Now, there's 40 to 50 sets in a match for an attacking team. The Storm look at it as 40 to 50 genuine chances of scoring. That is insane. I've got the Storm winning at home. I think Pappenhausen's going to have a day out. The key for me is this guy here, and we talked about him earlier, Jerome Hughes. I think Jerome Hughes is going to absolutely dictate what happens here. Nico Hines is going to have to be on his game, but Jerome Hughes is just going to be the human that's going to make things beyond belief for them. I've got the Storm winning. What have you got, Griff?
Yeah, I'm going to go Storm. They've got their best side on the park, which has been a rarity for the team from Melbourne this year. I do expect the Sharks are going to really put up a strong fight. I don't think the Storm are going to win by a lot. I do have concerns about the defense out wide of the Sharks. Ramian, Earl, a good ball in hand, but they can make some defensive mistakes.
Oh, I agree, Griff. If this gets to 10-0 quickly, it could be a bloodbath.
Yeah, as I said, I don't expect it's going to go, with a big score, but I do expect the Storm to win because I think that I look at this team on paper and they've got everything really you want in a team. They're big, they're fast, they're tall. Warbrick and Coates, I've got them as being amongst the best leapers in the game. Katoa and Muatalo are not short men, but I just think Coates and Warbrick offer more in the air. And I see frailties in the Sharks' defense out wide. The Storm forwards, big boys, powerful. The scary thing is that next year they're going to put Stefano into this side as well. Now, Bellamy will bring out the best in that bloke. He's not going to be there, obviously, this week, but it's a strong pack. Bloor, Katoa, Liero, they have done a lot of damage to opposition teams. Katoa, in particular, scores a lot of tries. They've got Monster and Hughes up against Trindle and Hines. Big challenge for Hines and Trindle. I think the Melbourne guys come out on top there. Just all round, I just think the Storm have more to offer. I do like the bench of the Sharks. Atkinson can play anywhere and does well. Williams is a very solid back row or lock. And you got the power of Hunt and Talakai. It's very versatile. Talakai can play out wide or in the forwards. So they've got all bases covered. Likewise, Tyron Wishart can cover pretty much any position on the field. and then you've got basically 3 guys who are props. So that's a little strange, I've got to say. But Bellamy knows what he's doing. I think Storm in a tight one.
I hope so, mate. That's going to be a cracking game on Saturday. On Sunday, 14th of
I think we've
September.
got a Saturday night.
What's that?
We've got a Saturday night game.
Saturday night game. Did I say Sunday? My apologies. Saturday night at 7:50, we have the Cowboys versus the Knights. My apologies. I let it slip there. We have the Cowboys versus the Knights. The Cowboys versus the Knights. I actually think if you want toe-to-toe insane football, this could be where it's at. Most are 1-17. Chad Townsend, he's been named in the side in an extended bench. It'd be interesting to see if anything comes to fruition there. But really, they are set, these two sides. Can I just say, last week I thought Bradman Best was outstanding. The strength and the endurance of that guy is just second to none. He is becoming one of the premier centres of our game. You've got a 6 and 7 on both sides who are set for their teams, but maybe not what you'd think. Tom Dearden, of course, the captain for the Cowboys. But when you look at Cogger and Crossland versus Dearden and Clifford, they're not the halves combinations that you'd probably put up there in the NRL. In saying that, they're doing the job for their team that the second to none. Frizzell, Thompson, Brayley, Reece Robson, well, we know what he's done this year. Absolutely outstanding. JT of the Tamalomo kind. Lukey, Nanai, Cotter. Their forward pack, the Cowboys, are just this juggernaut where the Knights, on the other hand, they get a bit of space. It's their back line, and Kalen Ponga drives that gets the dividends. The key thing for me in the 3/4 line is that it seems to be when teams want to exploit easy meters, they go down Dane Gagai's side. I think at times with success, at times with no success. No, we're in NRL now and I'll talk about Origin, but geez, if you try and do it on Bradman Best, he is just so fit and so strong. I actually think, and for no reason other than when I saw this game, in my head, something said the Knights are going to win. I'm picking an absolute upset here with Kalen Ponga having a day out. I'm picking a Knights win, Griff. I don't know why I'm doing it. I don't know what the reason or rhyme is. I just think when I look at what the Knights have done, and I know the Cowboys have done some good things too, I just think this game is made for someone to break it apart. Kalen Pong is the guy for me, and his Robin in this will be Bradman Best.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of attack in both sides. Interesting clash. Two teams that, have had their ups and have had their downs this year. But I just think there's probably a bit more class in the Cowboys team. Drinkwater, he uses class. Tommy Dearden in the backs, the two main men. They set up a lot of tries. Val Holmes seemed to do some good things last week, return to form. Obviously, Kalen Ponga, I think he's probably the best player on the field, and Bradman Best is very, very good as well. The forwards, I they're both strong forward packs. I think there's a bit more attack in the Cowboys with the Blue and Lukey and Nene. Yeah, Nene, very, very good in attack. Defensively can be a problem, but and then they can bring a guy like Finifuiaki off the bench with plenty of firepower as well. Jack Hetherington was very good last week. He'd sort of been out of the side for a while, but he got his chance over the last couple of weeks, and he's been very good. I'm going to stick with the home team, but again, I think there'll be a lot of points scored in this game. But I
think it's going to be a cracker. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys at home, but no certainty.
Well,
I would like to see Newcastle win, except for the fact that I've tipped the Cowboys, and that will hurt me in the tipping comps. So,
well, true. At 4:05 on Sunday, sees the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs take on the Manly Warringah Seagulls. The two teams with the double bunger names playing each other. Look, I suppose it's fair to say that the wingers, Jarrell Skelton and Jacob Kiraz in for the Dogs. No Addo Carr. Well, what's happened there? I don't want to give it much airplay in regards to the fact that if you're going to do this kind of thing and then say one thing to your club and do this, that, and the other, well, I'd rather not talk about you. That's where I'm at. I'm just going to talk about the teams as they're named, and this is how they're named. Tom Trbojevic, massive in for the Seagulls. A few very, very good inclusions too, by the way, on the extended bench. This is a huge game, and it deserves. This is not. I'm not being disrespectful to any of the other games this week, but this is the game that deserves Sunday 4:05 billing. This is insane. The only other game that probably does would be the Panthers game, but the Panthers would never take it to Allianz or Accor, whatever it's called now, and rightly so. So Accor Stadium on Sunday, Bulldogs versus Seagulls. Look, I actually think this is a really, really interesting game. I think this is the game for one Matt Burton to say, I am here for the Dogs and I'm going to put it on. For the Dogs to win, in my opinion, Matt Burton has to be man of the match. Luke Brooks and Cherry Evans have been playing some great football this year for the Seagulls. Lachlan Croker for the Seagulls has been doing some great things. The Seagulls forward pack has been absolutely outstanding and safe as houses, can I say, regarding holding the ball. Mate, Viliami kick out, this game is made for people like him. Reid Marnie kicking out a dummy half. The weak gutted dog, he's got to do some stuff out of lock. I do actually think that the Seagulls bench is better except for one guy, Josh Curran. Josh Curran has been put to the bench. I thought he had a rich vein of form throughout the middle of the year. He has played some great football. I hope he can do it this week. I'm picking the Dogs. My nephew goes for the Dogs, and I'm picking them for no other reason than I want to support him. I think this is a in the balance game. I'm picking the Bulldogs, but geez, it's going to be close. Any team with Tom Trbojevic in it, well, that's next level stuff. Who you got, Griff?
Yeah, I'm actually going the other way. I'm going to.
Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah.
big question about the Dogs.
My heart says Dogs, but my head says Seagulls.
Yeah, understandably. Traditionally, Manly not a liked team, but I think that's how it used to be. I don't think they're hated as they once were, but obviously some people still do. Yeah, I quite. It's hard to hate guys like Turbo and his brother Jake. But anyway, I'm going to back Manly because I just think the Dogs. Manly showed the way 2 weeks ago. Now the Dogs are going to be ready for what Manly are going to throw at them. They're going to know how Manly are going to play, but whether they can do something about it, they got blown away again last week by the big Cowboys forwards. I don't know if they can stand up to Manly this week. They've got close to their best team. Burton was absent last week. Steve Crichton was absent when Manly, sort of had their way with him a couple of weeks ago. So, what I do know is it's going to be a massive crowd, and it's going to be loud, and I look forward to this game. Olukwatu, he's up against Kikau again. He got sort of, almost a knockout win 2 weeks ago over a big Viliami. So Kikau will be looking to, get revenge against his, opposing giant on the other side. There's a lot to like about this game, contrasting, the Bulldogs with their fitness up against the power game of the Eagles. But there's plenty of skill as well in the Eagles with the likes of DCE, Brooks, and then you've got Turbo at the back there. No Jason Saab, but still a very good three-quarter line with Tommy Talau, Tolatau Kola. I don't know if, he's still with that knee injury, heavily strapped. Not at full pace, but still, he's dangerous. Garrick, he can be great, and then he can have, games where he's not so great. And Lehigh Hopewadi's been a revelation since breaking into the team this year. I look forward to it, and I'm tipping the Seagulls.
Well, that's it. That's finals round 1. We're at the business end of the competition. Look, this is where we're going to start seeing a couple of teams bow out, a couple of teams with second chances, cream rising to the top. It's going to be a very, very interesting next couple of weeks. Griffo, as always, thank you for being a part of this. Thank you for your insights. To the listeners, thank you for listening to us. It's been something that's gone on for numerous years. I think I looked at, we're well over, I think we've cracked the 17,000 downloads. So thank you very much for what you've done. Thank you for being a part of it. And if your team's still part of the finals picture, good luck this week. Griffo, thanks again. Thank you, everyone. Yeah. Have a great week. You. Keep safe and enjoy the football.
I want to send out a shout out to someone who's not going to be there over the weekend in finals, and that's the King G. No referee for King G. He's not in the top 4. I can't believe it.
Yeah, right. But I haven't looked at.
We've got Grant Atkins doing the Eagles and Dogs. I know Ash Klein is doing the Panthers Roosters. Todd Smith is up at Townsville for that game, and Jared Sutton is doing the game down in Melbourne. I don't understand it. I thought King G was fantastic in the grand final last year. He seems to be out of favour for reasons that I do not understand. But be that as it may, it's going to be a great... this is probably the best weekend of the year for the NFL. Because you've got 4 games of the best 8 teams are there.
Yeah, first round.
Yeah, first round of the finals. Enjoy it. Thank you for listening. It's been a longer show tonight, but we had a lot to get through. We appreciate the fact that you tune in, and each some of you listen. I know every week, and thank you for that.
Thanks, everyone.
Enjoy the Rugby League. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take
Bye,
care,
Sean.
everyone. Be good.